Hello and welcome. I call the channel the Jungle Nook, and today we're going to be talking about the houseplants and specifically pest control. Now, yes, I do use insecticides and I'm going to show them. The thing is, the more effective the insecticide, and I'm not referring to the home remedy ones that can be very effective, things like maybe just something like dish soap in with water. I'm talking about the man-made industrial insecticides, like insecticidal soaps. Um, they can be really harmful to the plant itself. They do what they promise, and they knock the insects out right away for you, but they can have a lot of side effects for the plants. You might use a soap like this, an insecticidal soap, and it takes care of the insects. But then for a few weeks after that, you still see the plant struggling, more leaves dropping, discoloration. The plant just doesn't look healthy. And a lot of times, you might be thinking that that's because of all the stress that was put on the plant from the insects, and that probably is playing a role in that. But the insecticide itself, that could have compromised the immune system even further, its ability to produce its own natural insecticide, because a healthy plant can be very efficient in producing its own insecticides. Things like caffeine and nicotine. Those are deadly to insects, and plants will actually produce them all on their own and actually kill insects that are feeding on them. But yeah, my plants are pretty good at defending themselves. But I do use insecticides, and we're going to talk about that. And it really is a big part in why my plants don't have very many problems.
The reason I have such shiny foliage is I use a product called neem oil. And neem oil is a all-purpose pest prevention. It's an insecticide, milicide, and fungicide. It's a very weak product, but it's natural. It comes from the neem tree. And it helps in pest control. It's not a product you would use for any kind of major outbreak, but that product will actually get absorbed right into the plant, into the cells, into the tissue, and then that, along with the plant's natural ability to defend itself, is pretty sufficient for pest control. But in order for a plant really have a good chance of protecting and defend itself, it has to be a healthy plant. You have to make sure you're providing it with all of the nutrients that it needs. And most all-purpose plant foods, plant fertilizers, will have all of the basic nutrients that they require. And I do have a video on fertilizing houseplants where I get into detail about the different nutrients and how to fertilize and when to fertilize potted plants. But besides the nutrients, they're also going to need an adequate amount of water, as well as a stable level of humidity. You don't want major fluctuations, and you want a warm home, not too cold, not too hot. If you're providing that, nutrients, water, warmth, and stable humidity, then the plant will be able to adequately engage in photosynthesis while it's in light. If you're missing any of those other components I just mentioned, it's not going to have what it needs to really take full advantage of light while it's in the light. And it has to engage in photosynthesis because it does use the nutrients that you're providing in the fertilizers or in your organic soils. But when it's engaging in photosynthesis, that's where it's getting its sugars, starches, oils, and fats, and proteins, things like that, that it's not getting through its root structure. And when it's able to engage in photosynthesis adequately and has all of its requirements met, the plant's able to regulate its hormones. And what the hormones do, that is how the plant is able to sense the environment it's in. It knows when, through the hormones, it knows there's moisture in the soil and nutrients in the soil, so it starts to absorb them. It knows it's in the light, so it's time to begin engaging in photosynthesis. It also knows when it's being attacked by insects or other types of pests. That's how the plant communicates with itself to, really ramp up and activate that immune system, begin to produce insecticides or its own fungicides and all that stuff, because it will produce them on their own, providing it has the resources to do so. But when a plant is healthy and happy and has everything it needs, it's able to regulate its immune system and its hormones efficiently, and it's able to promote pheromones. Pheromones are real important because that's how plants communicate with other plants, even different types of plants. Because plants are really slow to react. A plant can get an infection, a disease, or being attacked by insects, but it first has to realize it's getting attacked, that it has a problem, then has to activate its immune system and produce whatever it needs, an insecticide or a fungicide, and then it has to move those compounds to where they're needed. And that all takes time. And that's where the pheromones come into play. While it's ramping up all of its defenses and getting ready to prepare to battle it out with whatever the problem is, whatever's attacking it, pheromones are being released so that plants that haven't even come into contact with whatever the issue is, they're already, activating their immune system and getting everything in place so that when that problem gets to it, if it gets to it, it's already ready to start fighting off whatever the problem is. If it is a healthy plant but has insects on it, but you don't see any signs the plant's not wilting, the leaves aren't curling or turning yellow, everything looks fine, but you see the insects, and you spray it with a harsh insecticide, that's going to do a lot of different things potentially. It can interfere with that hormone regulation. You can even harm its immune system so that it's not able to fight off that problem. I'm saying all on its own, but you're actually intervening and helping, but it's in a very invasive way. Just wiping the leaves off, removing those insects for a couple of weeks, could be all the plant needed to produce its own natural defenses.
Regarding the insecticides that I use, any plant coming into the house, either a new purchase or something that spent the summer out on the porch, I'll use this product right here. And this is neem oil. It's a natural insecticide, pesticide, and milicide. And what this does here, this will actually kill on contact, but it will also get absorbed right into the plant and get into the cells and the tissue. And when an insect or a fungus or something gets on the plant and starts to feed or attack the plant, this will help to defend it. This is a product that's great to help with prevention of pests in conjunction with a healthy plant. It's really mild. It's not what you would want to use when dealing with an existing outbreak, something a little more severe that you need to get rid of all those insects or whatever the problem is almost immediately. But it's great for prevention. It's also what I use to make my leaves nice and shiny. Now, something else for those new plants coming in, I will use a product that you put right into or on the soil. And this product will also get absorbed right into the plant as well. It's a little more effective against insects, and it also will have an adverse effect on the beneficial microorganisms within the soil. As well as this product will too if you're spraying the soil itself.
But this one you actually put directly into or on the soil, and it's a great insecticide for anything that's in the plant. And again, both of these are systemic insecticides, and systemic means it gets absorbed into the plant tissue. Now, for a real bad infestation, that's when I would use an insecticidal soap right here. And this kills on contact, and it works within minutes. It's pretty harsh, but it's very effective for dealing with the insects. But like I said before, it can have some side effects. And you would use it as directed. And these types of products you'll usually want to spray once or twice a week for 2 or 3 weeks to make sure that you're getting all the different stages of the insects, or those that you didn't spray and maybe there were eggs and they hatched. You want to keep up on it for several weeks as directed. I would use it as directed. And if you have spots in the plant that you're not able to get to easily while spraying it, that's when I'd put a little bit in a cup. This is just a makeup brush. I would dip this in the makeup brush, and then you can actually brush the stems and underneath the leaves or the areas that you weren't able to get to with the spray. And you can get right into all little nooks and crevices that way. And that is pretty much everything that I talked about in this video, is how I deal with insects and what I do and how I do it, so that I've never really had any major problems. Even when I've had a couple of outbreaks, I was able to take care of it. I was able to take care of it without using the insecticidal soap. I just wiped everything off with the neem oil. I'm not really spraying it all over. I don't want it to get on the other leaves because it's an oil, and you want to really rub it in and really polish up the leaf. You want to get all the edges. You want to do complete coverage. And when dealing with the neem oil, because it is an oil, you're not going to want to do this several times a week for a few weeks. You don't want to clog the pores. You don't want the oil clogging the pores and suffocating the plant. So the neem oil is just something once that they recommend you do no more than once every 3 weeks. But really, if I'm just using it to polish and for some added protection, and I'm just going to do this about once every 3 months. That's about it. And this way I know I'm keeping my leaves clean so they engage in photosynthesis better and they're nice and shiny. I love shiny leaves. So as you can see, though, the leaves are nice and shiny, and they're dry now. That's actually how shiny they're gonna be. And this should be sufficient to control any insect problem on this plant for quite some time. Doesn't really matter too much the brand. What you're looking for is this word right here, systemic. That's what you want, a systemic insecticide. And this is for going right into the soil. And I know how much I'm supposed to use. I've used it before, but all you do is put a little bit. That was actually more than I even needed, really. Just put a little bit right down on the soil. I'm going to give it a little water so that it works its way down into the soil, but not enough water to where it's already running out of the bottom of the plant. I know this plant's well hydrated already, but I don't want to start flushing this product out immediately. And that is pretty much how I take care of my plants and how I control the pests, prevent pests. Now, this video here is actually something that I have edited down from a longer video that I have also on pest control. But it was a pretty long video, and wanted to make a shorter version, I will put a box up in the corner for you if you want to click on that. And I talked about some other things in that video, like humidity and airflow, as well as some other topics, but all related to pest control. And I would also highly recommend watching my tips and tricks playlist, where I get into some real in-depth detail as far as plant care and the reasons why and how we should be doing things or not doing things. There's a lot of really good information in that playlist, and if you like how these plants here look, check that out and see what I'm doing here to get these results.